In this episode of Faster Masters Rowing Radio, you'll discover why thinking like a scientist will fix the voice in your head.
Feel the grip of the oar handle, smooth yet firm in your hands. Taste the salt of your own sweat and the occasional splash of water. It's all part of the journey. Welcome to another episode of Faster Masters Rowing Radio. Each week, our host, Masters rowing coach Rebecca Caro, dives deep into the world of Masters rowing. Whether you're on the water or in the gym, join us to become a faster master. Let's go rowing.
Hello, everybody, and it's good to be back. I'm Rebecca Caro, and today we're diving into positive self-talk coaching. What on earth is that? Well, whenever you are in a rowing or a sculling boat, you're generally thinking about what you're doing. It doesn't really matter if you're stroke or bow. It doesn't matter if you've got a coxswain or you're coxless or you're in your single scull. One way or another, you're going to have a voice in your head that's going to be telling you things. And sometimes I like to characterize it as a devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other. You all know what the voice in your head is capable of doing. And generally speaking, masters work best when they're only thinking about one thing. And generally, we're thinking about technical things. It's quite rare for us to be sitting there thinking, push harder, push harder. Thinking about one thing is a great way to help improve how you're rowing. Square early. Roll the handles square as they pass over your feet. That sort of thing. Sometimes saying the same thing in several different ways. So create the outcome you want is an early square. The way to do it is to roll your handle. Start rolling your handle square earlier. Have a marker over your feet so you can see, are my handles approaching my feet? Right, I need to start rolling them square. So those are important ways to analyze what you're saying to yourself. Is it just the outcome or how you're going to do it? What's really important, though, is where are you headed? Now, there are 4 competency stages of learning any new skill. They start with unconscious incompetence. You do not know how bad you are. You're just trying to learn to row. The next stage is conscious incompetence. I know I'm not doing it quite right, but I'm still trying. The stage after that is conscious competence. When I think about it, I can do it right. And where we're headed is unconscious competence. I can do it right without having to think about it. What benefit does that bring us? Well, we know that if we don't have to think about, for example, squaring early, you free your brain up to think about other things. So you can start to focus on how the boat's moving, or whether there's check on the stern, or your steering, or the amount of pressure that you're putting on, or your relaxation. So the ability to firstly acquire a skill and then learn it and then put it into the background of your mind so that you free yourself up to do something else means that little voice in your head is working really hard. But the voice in your head is also a little devil at times. It tells you things subjectively. That wasn't a good stroke. Oh, you've done another bad. You've clipped the water again. Did you really square early that stroke? Are you sure you're doing this right? You're really not very good at this. And you can see how a negative spiral develops, which does not contribute to you rowing better. So one of the key things about training the voice in your head is to think like a scientist. Scientists are objective. They do not put value judgments, quality scores on top of what they observe. You are in a laboratory, you have a workbench. You are studying whether or not this rower is squaring early. Did they roll the handles square as they moved the handles past their shoes? Yes or no? It is a simple factual observation. It's not, is it good or bad? And the more you can think like a scientist and not try and judge yourself or allow that little devil on your shoulder to have a little window of judgment, the better you are at looking at what you're doing or feeling what you're doing and assessing whether or not it's what you were aiming for. Avoiding negative thought spirals is a very good way of helping you keep your mind fresh and keep it on task without drifting off into subjective value judgments. So what are the things that you can do to self-coach? You need to make an observation first. Am I doing something the right way? And watching your blade is a really good way to start. Many coxswains will tell you that they pull out most of their coaching tips just by watching the oars of their rowers. Remember, a coxswain, if they're in a front loader 4 or quad, they can't see the crew at all. And even if they're in an 8, chances are they can see the faces of 2 people. They can probably see the tops of the heads of 4 people, and the bow 4 are completely invisible except for their blades. So your blade is one of the best indicators of how you're rowing and whether or not you want to change it. So look out to the side, look at it going in at the catch, look at its blade depth as you go through the mid part of the stroke, look at the release and whether it's clean. And if you find that, if you're particularly in a single, that upsets your boat balance, don't worry, stop and go row circles in a quiet little corner of your river or lake. When you're rowing circles, you have one oar resting on the water and only one oar rowing. And so you can watch it completely objectively and get a really good view of what your oars are doing without the boat being unstable. Other things that you can do to self-coach is to play games with yourself. Now, I've talked in other podcasts about the games I play on the indoor rower when I'm erging, but actually in the water, it's really, really fun to play games. Give yourself a little challenge. You probably remember a cox or a coach saying to you, right, we're going to try and row 10 strokes without the oars touching the water. And little goals like that give you a focus for your self-coaching. So what are the games that you could play with yourself? One thing is to exaggerate. Often when we do drills, they are deliberately exaggeration drills where you overdo something. Imagine you're the coach and you're demonstrating how to do a part of the rowing stroke to somebody who's learning from you. You've got to be very clear. You've got to be very precise with the positioning of your body and your oar so that they can see the thing that you're trying to do. So your little game might be, I'm going to row like, think of your hero, and try and do 10 strokes with a super early square because that was how they rowed. And then overdo it. Go so early on the square and then perhaps try and overdo it again and move even like you feather and then immediately square again. And see how this impacts your rowing stroke and how the boat is moving. Then you can do it deliberately wrong, which is actually hilarious. So try and get your timing wrong in terms of, we're talking about squaring, but whatever you're working on, and then do it right. And often that contrast between an exaggeration, whether it's towards the positive or towards the negative, is a great way for you then to find a happy midpoint where you can do the movement the way you want to, doing it correctly. So think like a scientist, Work hard on your brain and your mental self-coaching, but enable your brain to be a positive support to your own rowing and coaching. And one last tip I'll leave you with is, when you've had a go at yourself and done a bit of mental self-talk, then row off for at least 10 strokes, thinking about nothing. Just clear your mind and row. And after you've done 10 strokes, then allow your brain to come back to the thing that you were working on, in this case, early squaring, and do the scientist observation again. Am I still rowing with my blades rolling square at the time that I wanted? Yes or no? Do I need to make a small change? Make the change. Give yourself maybe 5 strokes to embed it, and then go back to not thinking for another 10 strokes. Now, the purpose of this is to train your brain through those 4 competency stages so that you can see how close you are to unconscious competence. Can I do it when I'm not thinking about it? And the more you learn to flip-flop between thinking and not thinking, the better you train your body to respond to the technical change that you're trying to make. Go have some fun and have a great rowing week.
We are part of the Rowing Chat Podcast Network. Please tell your fellow rowers about the show. If you've learned just one helpful thing from today's episode, please consider supporting the show for as little as $1 per month by visiting fastermastersrowing.com/podcast.